Thank you and welcome to the special session about evaluation and innovation, the sustainable business transformation. My name is Agnes Alksne-Bensone, and I am a co-founder of Latvijas Korporatīvās Corporate Social Responsibility Platform and also an owner of consulting company Sustainability Partners. I would like to introduce you to the panelists for today's session. Viktors Toropos, Head of Sustainability Development at SEB Bank, Latvia. Mārtiņš Čakste, Chief Executive Officer of Latvenergo. Evita Goša, Board Member of Švenk Latvia. And Fredis Bikaus, Managing Director, Riga Investment and Tourism Agency. To start our discussion, I would like to briefly set the framework where what we would like to discuss today. This is an era defined by environmental crisis and security challenges in this region and all over the world. And it is increasingly important for us to explore potential of private partnerships, potential of public willingness to be part of largest transition, I think, after manufacturing transition, but transition to manufacturing, to start from linear and go forward with circularity of our economy. European Union has taken in their hands sustainability in terms of regulation, and we would call it an avalanche of different legal acts that is now homework for companies to understand where they stand with sustainability issues, what kind of impact they create, what kind of negative, what kind of positive impact they create, and report, be transparent, and be very open-minded about how they will mitigate the risks and how they will create plans that we live in a better world in the long term. Complexity of this regulation can kill sustainability idea behind it, and so that we are not killing the sustainability idea behind bureaucracy or data, then I would like to invite companies and also public sector to bear in mind the meaning of this regulation and try to find out how we can actually improve business behind the legal acts. I would like to also emphasize that in this transition process, we need to collaborate. And collaboration in our region is very challenging. I don't know maybe any good successful project even in the Baltic countries that we can say that it worked. But maybe this is a time where we can join forces and open our economy for this transition process. And I would like to invite us further to talk. And I would start with our first question to all our panelists about what is the role of your organization to secure, support business for sustainable transformation, and does innovation is part of that transformation? Please, I would like to give floor to Evita.
Thank you very much, Agnes. Thank you to organizers for having me, and thank you spectators and listeners to our discussion today. First of all, I would really like to emphasize that innovation is not just part, but it is the cornerstone of environmental and climate sustainability. And I represent a company that produces building materials, mainly cement, ready-mix concrete, and aggregates. And speaking really in very general terms about building materials production globally, I would really first like to outline where we stand, so what is the playing field, and briefly remind you why actually this area matters for environment and climate. And I will focus mainly on CO2 emissions. So in our let's say, area of production of building materials and construction, we can distinguish mainly two emissions generation cycles or types. That is, one includes those emissions that occur during production, transportation, and use of building materials in construction, while the others arise from the energy consumption in buildings. And if we analyze really all global emissions, then we find that approximately 11% of all emissions are generated in the field of building materials and construction. And approximately 28% of emissions are generated in the field of operation of buildings. So altogether, imagine almost 40% of all global emissions. That means that really this area is very much responsible for CO2 emissions reduction in the future. Also, we have to remember that a significant amount of waste is created during production of buildings, usage of buildings, but also especially during demolition of buildings. If we go back to production of building materials, then we also have to remember that concrete is the most consumed material after water in the world. And construction uses twice as much concrete as all other materials combined, if we speak about new construction. And one of the key elements in concrete is cement, and cement is responsible for approximately 7% of all global emissions. And also we as a cement producer in Latvia are responsible currently for approximately 7% of all CO2 emissions emitted in Latvia. So we are very much responsible for emission reduction. And therefore, we have, even though we have already done a lot, and since actually our cement plant was commissioned back in 2010, so we have already managed by almost in the amount of 100% substituting fossil fuels with alternative fuels, we have diminished our CO2 emissions in the amount of approximately 40%. We still see that we emit approximately 7% of all emissions in the country, and therefore we of course have very clear goals in how we are going to reach climate neutrality as soon as possible. So we have identified 2030 already, and that is where innovations step in and play a very, very important role. And just to mention, so the first part is the further reduction of emissions in the production process, but unfortunately approximately 2/3 of emissions in cement industry are the so-called chemical process emissions, so they are basically unavoidable. So cement industry, similar as for instance steel industry, is the so-called hard to abate sector, and these are emissions which we can't avoid at this point of time, and therefore we need other innovations, and these are the so-called carbon capture, storage, and possibly also further utilization technologies. So currently there are no like tailor-made solutions in the world, but there are very many vibrant projects ongoing with respect to implementation of these technologies, and we at the group level, so we are part of a group, building materials group company with headquarters in Germany. We very actively are testing these technologies, and we would be responsible for capture part, but of course we are looking into further, let's say, building of value chains when it comes to storage, most likely in the short term and mid-term, and hopefully also different ways of utilization in the longer term. But in order to even build these value chains, we also need support of public sector. And here I don't mean any financial help. Here I mean simple regulatory framework which currently we lack in Latvia. So in our view, we currently live in the society of different speed, as I say. So we have companies, we have entities, we have also individuals who understand very well why climate matters, that we can't continue as we have done so far, that growth does not mean increase of consumption anymore. We have to transform actually the way we think, the mindset, how we live. And on the other hand, we still even have people who believe in conspiracy theories that climate change does not exist and so forth. So these are the two basically ends. And the rest of people somewhere in between, and also companies among them. So, and this is where really this cooperation and collaboration is important, that we in all possible ways cooperate, that we discuss things. And even at the EU level, for instance, this spring I had a wonderful experience of having the opportunity to be part of an informal meeting of environmental and climate ministers of the EU. And actually, they also themselves, the politicians themselves, they said that this is a wonderful experience, you know, all this networking and mingling with businesses, like really talking to them finally, so really like understanding that.
So it's like not to be afraid about cooperation, public sector with businesses, it should be a key.
Absolutely, absolutely. It should be a vibrant, live, everyday level discussion, actually, because we can't solve things slowly at this point of time if we speak about climate and environmental challenges. But we, when I speak about the mindset, if we go back to like real things, what we have to do, especially if we speak about construction and production of construction materials. So this is, let's say, these are innovations also in materials even we use. So all kinds of new materials which we even haven't thought of at this point of time. So also development of new building design methods, use of new material combinations, and of course also recycling, recovery of materials, and usage of recycled materials, which we currently lack. And even if we speak about procurement, all kinds of procurement, be it, you know, public, anything else, we still don't have that mindset. Even we have huge projects currently in the Baltics. I won't mention the name, maybe you understand what I mean, but where also recycled materials are not used. So they are not even mentioned among the technical requirements. And this is a problem. So we have to change standards. We have to change, you know, how we implement them. And so this is what I also ask, let's say, the public to think about these things, and we all can influence.
It's very good. Actually, you brought all my questions in one speech, but we will try to tackle separately all the thematics. Yes, the question is the same. What is the role of your organization to support business for transformation? I understand that in your case, you do it yourself.
You don't wait. Participate in public
yes, of course.
debate.
So, what does banks do?
Well, that's a very extensive question, and I would need a lot of time actually to comment what banking sector is doing. So, despite the fact that I'm representing SEB Bank, I can also talk, I believe, from the banking sector in general, because there are a lot of discussions also on the association. Sustainability is a very hot topic there, but they're all, I think it describes very well that if you take the policy makers of EU, then you can treat banking sector as a bit like extended hands to introduce.
Like extended power.
Yes, and that's how it works. And actually banking sector was one of the first sectors where a lot of different, very specific requirements came in, and we have to be in line with those requirements. In practice, it means that we have to incorporate in our practices everything what is around the sustainability. Let's say how we are ensuring that the climate risk management practices are sufficient, how we are assessing the customers, how we are educating the customers. And that requires a lot of effort, starting from what you are doing in your such-called old your own kitchen, I would call. That's all the governance related things. You have to make sure that everyone understands what is expected, that there are specific roles which are responsible for the specific things, specific processes are developed and so on. And that is enabler to move forward with what is that visible part for the market. And I think it's always great to hear the stories of the companies who have very good facts in this around the sustainability, what are achieving and have very specific targets. But in general, the situation in the market is that sustainability area is a pretty complex and new thing for many market players, and we are very focused on ESG advisory meetings. We are meeting customers, we are explaining, we are trying to talk their language, we are trying to put attention on the most important upcoming changes that can be about the physical risks or transition risks, whatever. There is a lot of different angles in that story. And it takes time to educate, and it takes time even for the customer to start that transition, because it always starts from the thing that you have to understand what's happening in your company. If you are starting to think about very tangible sustainability related targets, you are ending up with the need for specific data. And data within the sustainability area, that is a huge challenge actually globally. That's why, to summarize a bit what banking sector is doing, so first of all, we are developing our own processes, we are establishing new methodologies, how we are assessing ESG aspects at the client level. Then it goes to specific, let's say, frameworks, how we are incorporating that in our lending decisions. And you can also notice that banks are coming up with the new sector policies. They are very, transparent and open to say which are the sectors where they are willing to cooperate, where they would like to limit a bit. And the essence is very simple, because actually banking sector can influence, because banking sector is, let's say, responsible for, can impact the inflow of the capital in the market. And that's up to us how we are assessing, does client do sustainable business or not? And even those advisory meetings, that is the tool how we can help customer to understand, let's say, how to move maybe from very high emission intensive sector towards more climate neutral. And it's not the case that always customers need to become from day one green. Actually, customer need to deliver the progress, and our aim or our let's say task is to help the customer to become greener, if I would say. And that is always about the specific targets, specific reduction targets when it comes to emissions or some other areas what can be measured. And that measured data, that is one of the key things for the banking sector. And that's why in the finance association, I would say number one question in our agenda is the role of the policymakers at the state level. And I would very much agree with the statement that there is still a lot to do when it comes to the situation in Latvia. So there are very practical things, how policymakers and, let's say, ministries can support companies. It starts from the very specific targets, it starts from the very specific guidelines and very specific tools how to support companies, and it ends up with data availability in the market. I think that is the very tangible thing what companies actually need and what bank sector is need. And then we can say that it will start work much more efficient, and that will become much more easier for all of the involved parties and in that process. And of course, for if you take, let's say, social that aspect, or let's say how the public is understanding that also requires a lot of explanations. It's not so easy around the sustainability that you can say our target is to meet Green Deal targets. So what's in for me? I mean, for the simple citizen.
Yeah, you
So
had to change to actually do it.
You have to, first of all, you have to change, but you have to explain what does it mean and what does it mean in practice. And that it means to grow that common, let's say, understanding around this topic in the country.
Yes, a lot of also.
Yeah, in innovation, I forgot to say about innovation. There is a lot actually what we are doing, but just to be short, I think one of our main focuses, if we are connecting innovation with sustainability, that we are supporting entrepreneurs and within the different topics which are around the sustainability. Also, there is a lot happening when it comes to the academic sector, let's say students and universities, because you can identify a lot of challenges within the sustainability area. Basically, we are supporting and moderating and bringing up those challenges and also ready to support in a long term if there are some good ideas, what we see, what's coming from different type of the events.
Okay. I know that Latvenergo has a history of publicizing the data, publicizing the business model, explaining, working with stakeholders about their business. And so my question would be the same about what's your role for the sustainable transformation as a system. You are more responsible for the system of energy sector. Yes, and where do you see like maybe the challenge for you to do your job properly?
Yeah. We in energy sector, we are used to follow the weather forecasts, etc. a lot, and that's what we can say about this year is that this year differs a little bit from the previous ones, and really this year we see that many temperature records are broken. And that all in all, starting from May, there is a +1 degree in the ocean, and you can argue about what causes exactly this change in climate, but you cannot argue anymore, is it happening or not? So, as you know, then scientists say that if it comes up to 2 degrees, it will make a lot of change. Just to tell about Latvian weather, which is maybe closer to all of us, then summers will become almost 2 months longer. And the situation what we had this year when there was floods in January and February, it could happen more and more, and that makes also some challenges for society, how to adapt to it. In different countries it will be different challenges. And for instance, from May to October, we have very much below the average the water in Daugava River. So these changes are happening, and we all together need to address it and look for solutions quite fast. There's really no much time left for us to make serious decisions. We as Latvenergo, together with the SEB Bank last year, we were 3 of the companies who get diamond in sustainability, diamond level, and but we are not stopping there. This year we decided to make also our ESG committee, and we are now setting targets in all of our areas where we want to be leading the leading example for other companies. And of course we are all the time extending the scope of things we are following. So one thing is the direct emissions, where you are the cause, and then you go deeper up to the supply chain and further and further. And that's what we are doing now. And of course, as Victor said, it's a lot of education job to be done, and you have to be smart, because if you make things not profitable at the end for all your chain, then it's not sustainable, because in electricity you have 3 targets. It's security, it's availability, and that you can afford actually, because in the green energy, as you know, if you will have to pay triple, then society will not understand it. So you have to be very smart how to implement these green technologies so that they are still sustainable from the point of view that people can afford it. And last year, what our group allowed is only in 1 year, 15,000 households were able to connect the solar panels at their homes, and you need a grid for that. You need the smart meters. You need a lot of technology to support it, and we could do it. But then you saw what happened with the tariffs. Yeah, because people thought that no, we don't want to pay for that. we want so that there is inflation, but we don't want to see it in our bills. And then, of course, also the question who has to pay, common people or the business, and which one comes first, competitiveness of the business or affordability for the people. And there are a lot of things to balance. So basically in the whole Europe you have a problem that grids cannot connect all this green energy what is needed basically to reach CO2 targets. And actually whole Europe is behind, and the system operators are not able to sustain all these grid connections, and this is a big issue. If we talk about Latvia, then in wind energy we are at the last position in Europe basically. So we lack also some legislation, and there is a big fight in whole Europe, but you always need to have some political decision. The environment with the 91 bird and a lot of river species, etc., and then wind turbine. What should be the solution? If you will not make some sacrifice somewhere at least, then you cannot build anything at the end, and then you are dependent on the fossil fuel, and then you have CO2, etc. So somebody has to have this holistic view on the things, how they develop, and make some decisions that probably there we make safe haven for the environment, but there we still give a chance for the green energy to develop, because there is actually no other way how to make fossil fuels to go away. Otherwise you are a little bit like in Germany, where you close the nuclear and then you use on the maximum the coal, which is emitting so much CO2 as it was not done years before. And actually in 1 year the damage done is like 10-20 years worth. What is done now during this last year in Germany because of closing nuclear plants. So you have to be wise and holistic. The green energy can work only when you have a holistic view, starting from the supply to the end user. And of course the most sustainable thing is to save and to make energy efficiency, and that's also where Latvenergo has the efficiency center. So anybody who wants to know how to save the energy, you're welcome, starting from the person, individual or company, whatever, because that what you use wisely is the best way not to spend where you can save. And talking about the innovation as such, then there are some technologies which have reached maturity level, basically the wind power on the earth and current photovoltaic, let's say, technology has reached the peak, and there are new developments in solar panels, but they are in a 5-10 years period to become commercial, because they are not commercial yet. But there are some very serious areas where we now invest most of the innovation. and it's storage, all kind of storage technologies, because there are so many different ways how to store excess energy, and so this is the area where we invest the most. And what we do is, you know that there is a big problem in Latvia with the STEM, with the education. Actually, we are also behind in all Europe. We have a lot of humanitarian students, but very few STEM students. And so we as Latvenergo give a lot of attention, starting from the school up to the doctor's degree and scientists, etc. How we support popularization of STEM science, so that we have more smart people to find the solutions and to make this crucial change.
Yes, thank you for highlighting the professional issue about our competences. We are not the only ones in whole Europe is suffering from lacking of STEM students. Thank you for also the mentioning holistic approach. And my everyday job is related to understand what the regulation for sustainability actually mean for companies and what it practically will mean. And the idea behind this regulation, new regulation, is to request from the companies to have holistic approach, to understand the impacts and to understand what we should report, what we should change, what we should keep, and what we should transition. So, and that was, I think, I slightly go to Fredis from Riga Council, and we had already previously conversation about that you would like to talk about investors. And do investors see it as a, do request a holistic approach?
I will speak about the investor side, because I think I'm hearing what you're all saying, and I'm thinking that we could have another panel discussion just with the Riga employees, because, you know, we have the energy agency, we have people working with climate and different projects, and definitely city plays a significant role, but also investment attraction is impacting that, because the big question is, what kind of investors do we want to see here? And we currently set 6 priority sectors that we believe that we should work more. It's obviously Riga is mostly a service economy, so it's IT companies, shared service centers, startup ecosystem, real estate, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's interesting that answering your question, I see a disconnect between what we generally discuss as investment attractiveness in Latvia and what I hear when I meet investors and when they ask questions about what's happening here. Quite often, when you switch on TV, you would hear things like, oh, we should decrease our tax by 1% or increase our tax or whatever. We do very, I would say, rather technical changes to the product, but it's definitely important. It's somewhere there, but it's definitely not the number one thing. Because then I ask a opposite question. So let's imagine that tomorrow we introduce zero tax. It's a heaven. There is no taxes or very low taxes. Does it mean that there will be a huge line with potential sustainable good investors coming to Riga? We have that example actually in startup ecosystem. In startup, we have one of most competitive legislations right now in the world. There is good taxation system. We're on multiple ratings, but there is no line with founders. There is even a founder, I do not recall the exact name, but the visa for the founders of startups. But there is no line of founders standing on the border and asking, let me in, we want to be in Riga, right? And I think the reason is, especially when it comes to Riga, maybe in regions it's a bit different when it comes to manufacturing, but in Riga, it's mainly about talent. And I spoke with one of Big Four representatives who is advising big investors on where they should go, and ask them, okay, give me the data, how you evaluate different locations before you advise your customers. And obviously taxes, business environment, everything is there, but up to 60% of total evaluation comes to talent availability and the quality of life. And the quality of life then is linked to, obviously, are we customer-centric city or a car-centric city, or public transport or whatever other mobility solution, how friendly we are towards families with kids. We know that's an issue that a lot of families choose to live in the suburbs of Riga, not in the Riga. So when you speak to investors, there's surprisingly a lot of questions around quality of life, around what are the plans of the city towards climate change and et cetera, human rights and things like this. And this is a disconnect when you switch on the TV in Latvia and when you speak to actual people who are asking you all these questions, that I think we're thinking of the a bit wrong direction. But that's one area is to make a product. Another area is I quite often feel like we try to make our product perfect, but we are then not going out and selling it in a proper way. I just came back yesterday from London from a conference, and on the conference, we actually sponsored the conference. So what we did, we made sure that lanyards for the badges, on all of them were written Riga. So everyone on the conference was wearing the Riga logo around. And when I was speaking to people, half of them didn't know this because they didn't know what Riga is. And it's surprising. I mean, obviously, European education system is failing us at some point, but it's surprising that that's what's happening in London. I'm not in US or somewhere far away, right? So I think that we should do more sales. We should be much more proactive than we did before when it comes to attracting investors. And I think the good example also is one of the investors that we did attract this year was Roche Services, who is building the shared service center in Riga. When they were searching for their new office for the shared service center, they have very strict requirements to what they require from the real estate, right? And it's not only BREEAM certificate; it's much broader than that. And so, if you would follow all Roche requirements, there are 0 buildings that are compliant. If you close eyes on some of them, there are 2. But this being said, that this kind of investors entering Riga is also driving the demand for more sustainable real estate. In a broader way, also, I mean, how they interact and support their employees, and etc. There are multiple aspects of why such companies are important when they're entering Riga. And the other aspect is also tourism, which I probably spoke less today about, but interestingly, what we're looking also into is there is now data which you can get based on purchases that foreigners are making in Latvia, and you can make an estimate of the CO2 impact in Riga. So, and you can see how different categories of tourists, what's the impact based on their purchase behavior in the city. So we're now also in discussions with collaborating with payment system providers to look also into that.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
To sell it. I really liked your comment about product, and when you are so technically involved in some details, then you forget actually what it's all about. And also, this also brings me to economic development theory. Like, you have to create place, and then the person will come, and then the business will come. And so that's why I think it is very important that the Council has the strategy for these issues. We have touched a lot of topics, but I would like to, from your perspective, would ask the question about are there any areas or initiatives that Latvia is setting an example for the best practice? Because there are a lot of challenges, lots of issues, and I would like to have the fifth panelist from the public government, but I don't know which one to invite, because there, in my mind, it was already 5 ministries at least. So from your perspective, what can we give to Latvia as a country for this transition? Like, do we have some examples, initiatives where we see a potential? Maybe it's not already done, but there is a potential for us. Maybe which industry will be first? Who will transition? What do you think?
Could you elaborate a little bit more on this question, because it is somehow, I think, too abstract. I mean, what do we mean by Latvia? Do we mean public sector, or do we mean specific companies? Like, what?
I think you can, I mean, if you know, not from your own company or perspective, you can speak broader. But
No,
if you see that, I mean, Schwenk Latvia, what you've done, I think you are one of the success stories about your sustainability practices. But maybe you see that there's something that we can say, this is the way how to do it, and we should share it.
Yeah, well, I can simply, let's say, go on with our example. One technical comment to Mārtiņš: we also fall in diamond category of sustainability index, just in case. For last year, exactly, for last year, for 2022. This is last year. But okay, this is a technicality. Going on, what I think we are lacking, if it comes to especially the public sector, is like not using the opportunities we have. And I will just really name our example, what we are currently fighting for let's say, to implement really the carbon capture storage potential. And this is part of net zero for industrial emissions. Currently, let's say, this is the part of Green Deal. Currently, the EU has set targets already for 2030, like that approximately up to 50 million tons of CO2 should be stored by 2030 in the territory of the EU, be it onshore, offshore. Basically, the member states will have to submit this information to the European Commission, which are the storage possibilities all over the EU. And Latvia has fantastic potential, which has to be researched further. There are scientists absolutely ready. They are on their marks at this point of time, as we speak, to really, continue on that initial work that has been done already. Unfortunately, we currently have such a regulative framework and absolutely no willingness and initiative from the public sector side. So we are, let's say, one of the businesses actively fighting for giving that opportunity, opening up this opportunity to further investigate this potential. Currently, there are many countries in the EU already doing that. So as mentioned, there are ongoing projects concentrating mainly on offshore, but currently there are also onshore examples where, let's say, CO2 storage is made, let's say, possible. And this is a business opportunity. And currently, let's say, every day that we are, letting go, other countries use this potential. And we could name other examples, where Latvia is too cautious of using the opportunity, seeing business opportunities, actually, just missing the opportunities.
So basically you're saying that the success is that we are ready.
We are ready.
Scientists are ready. We know
Businesses are ready.
Businesses are ready, so we lack this particular thing. Are banks ready?
Banks are very open and very ready, I would say.
Okay.
And, we are really searching for the projects which can be classified or qualified as a green, because that's not the case where you can just call it green that because you think that's green. There are specific criteria what you need to meet from the regulatory perspective and so on. What we are happy to see that there are more and more companies which are really thinking from the sustainability perspective and trying to go for the projects which can be treated as a green. And I would actually strongly would say that there is a lot of available funds for that. Different type of products that are available on the market locally and globally, and that is really up to the companies how they, I'm not saying pack the thing, but actually how they understand first of all what needs to be done in order to qualify for the green project, and then I'm sure that the financing will be available much more easier. And then we can talk about the terms and so on. So those are actually good examples what we can find in the private sector. But when it comes to the state level, I would very much agree that there is a lot, there are a lot of opportunities which are not used. And already was mentioned that there are different stakeholders, different partners who can work together. And I think there are very good examples which are those, stakeholders which are ready to do and to go further, and where we are a bit struggling. And I think, from my perspective, this is a bit about the understandable and efficient. I would not call that as a platform, but that is the how we are doing the things on the state level, how we are doing the things on the country level, how we are doing the things on the municipality level, how to move forward from the very loud announcements that our city gonna be, I don't know, climate neutral by year X, but how to create the platform that there are opportunities for young entrepreneurs, small companies, medium, large companies. Academic sector can step in, financial sector can step in, and how we can move forward. And I think, that's the challenge is that in many cases that is a bit about the potential adjustments in the legislation framework. That is a challenge, but we need to start from somewhere. We need to be sure that we understand what needs to be changed in order to boost that direction, and the things are finally starting to happen. No, that's. I think I know that's an example of what everyone have noticed, but take energy efficiency. And that is very hot topic, and there is so much to do, especially in Riga, and that creates really good opportunity for a lot of involved industries and companies and so on. But there are some, let's say, limitations or some challenges which are on agenda for years, but we somehow cannot find the good solution that it finally speeds up and things are starting to happen.
That comes to my mind the example about things start to happen when the crisis happen, and or the situation are triggered so badly that we are just starting to do it. And I would like to come back to Mr. Čaks about your new project with state-owned company Latvijas Valsts Meži. It happened, and there was no precedent before, and even discussions. Or I'm wrong, or it's just like how it's going now, and how you find it. Is it an example? How should operate state-owned companies, or it's like what's your view? Is it triggering the transition that we are going that way to the solar and wind energy or not?
I think it is, of course, controversial question, because some people think that state-owned companies should not get into the business, even if it is the core business of this state company, because we are not making mineral water or whatever. We are talking about the electricity and producing electricity, which is basically our core thing to do. And so I think decision to do it was great, because the problem with wind turbines is such that nobody wants to see them close to the house. And the idea was taken from Ireland and Finland, basically that in the forest you can move it further away from the society, so that it's a little bit further away. Another aspect is that current technology allows to build much less these wind turbines than before. If some 5-10 years ago you would need several hundreds of such, then now it's only about 100 turbines, and you can reach a lot of goals with that. So in the hectares, actually at the end, each turbine takes only 1 hectare to be protected for that purpose, and we have a really big proportion of the forests compared to the society, etc., compared to whole Europe. So the idea was not bad. But one thing is to decide it, another thing is then to execute. And on the side of execution, there are so many milestones. As I said, there is environmentalists, there are even the military services which say no wind turbines because it doesn't help others. And there are municipalities which are still not happy because there is a fight who will get the money and who will not, and etc., etc. So in my let's say short message would be such: Poland decided to build 5 nuclear plants half a year ago. After half a year, they have already an environmental decision that it's okay, you can do it. It's for nuclear. We cannot make it happen for the onshore wind farms. So it's, I think we have a lot of military threats currently. You know that 2 weeks ago, Baltic Connector was harmed. That's connection of the gas pipeline with the Finland, and also the communication cables towards the Sweden and Finland were harmed. So there are a lot of risks currently, and Baltic states as such, they're not totally energy independent. We don't have sufficiently the generating power. We are importing. So I think it's crucially important that we build enough this wind generation in the Baltic states, and Latvia should take the part in it and make some clear political decisions to fasten this process, and not only for Latvenergo project but also for other projects, and some decisions should be made, either we want it or not, and better faster, because as you know, at 25th February we are now also disconnecting from the Russian grid, and that will make much more reliance on the energy produced in Baltic states themselves. And the safest way for us and the cheapest way is to find a way how to build this wind energy in the Baltic states, so that we do not have to import, or so that we don't have to rely on gas and shale oil in Estonia so much, because it will be costly.
So sustainability actually is also an issue of security. Would say that?
In this case, this is, I think, in this way, a very good decision, because we solve immediately many problems. We make a green energy at once, and also we have enough energy to be secure and not dependent from the imported fossil fuels.
The private and public partnership, not in all countries, are also a very success story. And there is a lot of controversy when you actually are joining forces. What do you think should happen that we are stop being afraid, and also business can be part of the sustainability projects, security projects, like, and doing together, like what should happen that actually the collaboration is successful and we gain trust, like how to gain this trust? I think that would be a more precise question.
Was it?
It's for all of you, because the issues are very diverse.
Well, I can maybe comment from city perspective. It's true that, and it actually refers not only to the city but to the country as well. We didn't have any much public-private partnership projects in Latvia, except of just launched Keka Road. And there are probably multiple reasons to that. It's a very complex and long journey to go. As far as I know about the road, it was first started to be as an idea developed in 2006, if I'm correct. Today is 2023, so it took us a while. And but in Riga, we do see this as a potential solution to many of our challenges going forward, for many reasons. But one of them is actually that we have a lot of areas where we need to invest money, but we don't have that money, and we cannot borrow unlimited money. So this is the way how to solve that challenge. So I have people hired who are actually developing the concept, and we will be doing that. And one of the first projects will be actually in the energy field. We'll need to replace all of our street lighting. because it's very old. It's
a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and I think the lightning is there probably still from the time we've been occupied, I would assume. So its current cost is estimated at least 60 million, but I think by the time we're gonna be there with the actual solution, it's probably will be somewhere around 100 millions at least. But there is a lot to think about. First, to replace, which currently we estimate will cut our costs on electricity by 40%. But more of that is how to also commercialize that. So maybe we can develop ideas on using those lightning. How do you call them in English? But you're stubby, but you understand. So maybe for commercial reasons, like you can electrify your car or whatever there are other needs of private operator would be. So I think definitely PPP is the way to go, and city is looking the direction. The challenge with that is just a very complex and long process.
Yeah, I would like to add that I think everything relating, to innovation, to basically this new mindset, this also applies actually of how we collaborate. I mean, we can't really, carve something in stone and say, that this is the model we are going to use for the next 20 years. This is exactly the time, where we have to, just quickly apply, like new ideas, let's say new mindset, where we, there is this initiative, from public sector, private sector, new ways also in this regard, new ways of collaboration. And we need to adapt. So the change is the only permanent thing in life, as we know. And this is where we simply have to try to adapt. And I think that one of the biggest problems in the public sector is exactly that, like being rigid, something about like stability, that certain things have been, in a certain way, and they remain that way, and I feel safe there. And this has to change. I know that this is, easier said than done, but this is something that, we will have to trigger at some point.
It's very interesting that it's actually about people's behavior, how we make decisions and the power of decisions. And I just came back from Iceland, and there was a whole conference about circular economy, about human factor. And we talked about decision making and how we think. Yes, please.
I'll answer to that question a bit from other perspective. I think if that starts from the targets and ambitions, and then you can dive in actually in those targets and try to get out what is those top most tangible things to deliver to meet the highest result from, let's say, some climate neutrality perspective. And that is, I think, the thinking what we need. We always need to understand that it ends up with targets which are measurable. And I think that is something what could lead to hopefully a bit different discussion when it comes to some legal or legislation framework, some other, conditions or the ways of cooperation and so on, because it's always going to be a lot on our list. But I think it makes sense to start. I'm not calling those as small iterations, because we're talking here about large projects, expensive projects, and so on. But I think within such extensive area as sustainability, some focus is needed. And I somehow believe that even that my example about climate neutral cities. So the question is from what we are starting. What are those more tangible projects to focus on, which are going to bring the most value out of that? And I think that's maybe is the thing to really consider how to deal with that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Would you like to also add, or?
I wanted to maybe point out two questions, and one is connected with your business, and and about the startups and innovation. And for the state-owned companies, the law is not allowing to participate in startups because the probability to get a successful result is 10%, maybe, yeah, 15 if you talk about real startups, and then it's not made in the legislation so that we are allowed to lose the money. So because if the money is lost, then basically we have given away the state money, which is not allowed so far. So this legislation is still missing. The second part, when we talk about innovation, then we are collaborating with universities, and the big issue is fundamental science, because startups usually come to something that is ready or close to readiness, but they cannot appear if there is not fundamental science. And this is the biggest problem actually today, how to support the fundamental science in Latvia and increase the pool for these startups to appear.
Yes, there was an article, I think, yesterday or today about that we lack a scientific base for being the best, but I think we are in some areas even best, still in academia. Do you have still 5 minutes or for last question? Okay, nobody is interrupting me. I will ask the last one. From your side, very shortly, what would be one request for you to succeed, and to whom in sustainability? I think you have a request.
Yeah, we have a very specific request, not to put obstacles in the way to the implementation of the EU Green Deal in Latvia.
Thank you.
No, I would really expect that on the policymaker level, we finally see one owner for the sustainability and Green Deal topic.
Yes, I can agree more.
Yeah, with the environment, you need to find this compromise, because in order to build wind farms, you need a place to do that. It's impossible to solve it by the companies themselves. It should be political decision, and we should not fight against an environment. We have to find compromise and the way forward, and to do it fast.
I would say it might not be directly linked to sustainability, although it is linked, is a clear responsibility and strategy on human capital, which was historically all over the place. It's kind of now, according to the new government, responsibility of the Ministry of Economics, but if I have to request something, I want a clear path on that topic.
That is part of sustainability. And thank you for bringing up these important topics. We have a lot to still discuss. Thank you for your participation, and good luck in the conference.